This is Between the Lines, presented by Continental Diamond. I'm Gabe Henderson. That's Ben Leber. Ben, the Minnesota Vikings end the 2023 calendar year with a loss to the Green Bay Packers tonight, 33-10. And I don't know where to start when trying to summarize this, but you did have a conversation with Kevin O'Connell in the locker room, and just understanding that, this is the fifth loss in 6 games. When addressing the conversation, what was that like, talking to him in the locker room?
I mean, once again, he's disappointed. Disappointed because obviously in his mind, when he plays the game through his mind pregame and through the week, nobody expects this sort of lopsided victory for the other team. And for him to have to go with the other quarterback, to go with Nick Mullins at halftime, I'm sure he never envisioned that as well. I don't think he envisioned the fact that our defense gave up over 400 yards of offense and almost 500 if you count that last meaningless drive. And we just couldn't stop them on the ground or through the air. So the Packers kind of did whatever they wanted to do, and he was obviously very disappointed. But I think there is still a lot of optimism that, win next week.
Yeah.
You gotta cross your fingers that a bunch of teams lose, right, and you sneak into the playoffs.
Yeah, with the loss, going into this game, we knew the Seattle Seahawks had lost, which ultimately meant that the Vikings controlled their own destiny if they won out. Now that the Vikings have lost, they need help from the Seahawks, the Rams, the Packers, and I believe another team in order for the Vikings to get into the playoff picture. But on top of that, they have to beat the Lions next week. But understanding that this is a Vikings defense that was kind of uncharacteristic today. We know this defense has been phenomenal all year, but to give up 14 plays of 12 yards or more, where do you start when trying to summarize why is that the case?
I just think that these last several weeks, I don't know who figured it out, maybe Cincinnati, about our defensive blitz package. It is not necessarily effective. It's not disrupting. It's not catching anybody off guard. It's just not as impactful as it was at the start of the year. I don't know if it's scheme. I don't know if it's personnel. Whatever it is, when you blitz, you're leaving 5-6 guys in coverage, and that's it.
Yep.
And there's going to be some obvious holes. So if they understand where the rotation is going to be, and it seems like these offenses have, then really it's an easy just throw and catch, and you can still stay in rhythm even when you're facing a blitz. So once again, they picked up our blitz really well. Jordan Love actually left a bunch of yards out there. He was a little inaccurate in the first half, and had he hit some of those receivers wide open in the middle of the field, unfortunately, this could be a much uglier score.
Yeah, Jordan Love, 4 touchdowns today, 3 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing. The first time in his career he's had 4+ touchdowns in a game, and you hate for that to happen here for this Minnesota Vikings team. But just looking at our defense, you brought up a stat earlier that going into that last drive, I'll have you explain that, but I'm going to tee you up with this. The Green Bay Packers were 9 of 14 on third down today. They averaged 3rd and 4. They got 28 first downs today. How do you summarize just the stat that you're about to say with them being so good on third down?
Well, that was the totality of the game. I'll take my stat from right before their last drive, which again was a meaningless drive. Game was basically over. Game was over. They had 19 first downs. Our defense gave up 19 first downs on just first and second down alone.
Wow.
So, we were not good on first down. We were not good on second down. This was a running offense that was getting better. I think everybody realized that the running offense was getting better, but we had stopped the run pretty well, and they just gashed us.
Yeah.
They gashed us on the ground. Like we talked about just a second ago, they picked up our blitzes on third down. They seemed to have an answer for everything that we were going to throw at them. And again, we just played on our heels, and they had control for 60 minutes.
Well, you hope that this Minnesota Vikings team can bounce back next week in Detroit. It's the last game of the season, regular season at this point, but still, this Vikings offense has to find ways to score points. We don't know going into next week who's it going to be starting quarterback, Jaren Hall or Nick Mullins. Jaren Hall started today. He was 5 of 10 for 67 yards and an interception. He got benched at halftime, and then Nick Mullins came in, threw a touchdown. But still, you're trying to figure out how do this Vikings offense continue to move forward? How do they do that against the Lions on Sunday?
Well, unfortunately, we just played the Lions, and Nick Mullins was in there and did not have a great game. Yep. So, you have this blueprint right now. At least they do on him. I still think that he gives you the best chance. You know, he's exciting to watch because he's going to take a bunch of risks, and sometimes, you know, it pays off and sometimes it doesn't. But I think what we just saw with Jaren Hall, there was opportunities there. He just didn't anticipate as well as he probably should. Right. And that's just youth. That's inexperience. And Nick Mullins, he'll take those chances. He'll throw a guy open. He'll anticipate. You know, his very first down pass to JJ right over the middle, that was an anticipatory throw. Yeah. He threw that ball before he came out of his break. You're not getting that with Jaren Hall, and that's the difference. He might throw the ball away. Yep. He might throw you an interception. He might be a little careless with it, but he also might give you 3 touchdowns.
Very much so. This is my final question for you. I don't do between the lines for road games. So for you, moving forward, if this is the last Vikings home game or the last Vikings game next week, what do you want to see from the Vikings against the Lions on Sunday? Win, lose, or draw, 12 p.m. next Sunday on Fox.
Well, we've talked so much about our defense. I think these last couple of weeks where teams are starting to figure out our defense. I want our pressures to get home. And I actually want us to start pressuring the quarterback when we're not blitzing, because the start of this game, in at least the first quarter, we only blitzed 3 or 4 times.
Right.
And it was mainly on 3rd down. So I want to see a 4-man rush, our base 5-man front. Just get home. Just affect the passer. Make them move off their spot. Yep. Maybe get a tip ball. Something like that that looks like our defense is in control. We have not been in control these last several games.
Well, one thing we do control is the fact that we can make fans happy by finishing the 2023-2024 season with a good regular season win on the road against the Detroit Lions. Ben, you'll be there. I'll be there. Ryan O'Neal, who's behind the camera, will be there. So hopefully this Minnesota Vikings team can get another win before the regular season. Ben, we'll talk to these people next week.
All right. See you.